guys sick and tired of losing races to BMWs? Because I know I am. If you guys aren't familiar with my channel, I have a 2013 Infiniti G37S. The 370Zs and G37s come with 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6, making 330 horsepower, which is not bad for almost a 10-year-old car. However, compared to the new modern BMWs and other cars, it lacks on power. I've been doing research on how to make my car faster, and there is only one option, and that is to boost this bitch. There are two options when it comes to boosting your car. You can either supercharge your car or turbocharge your car. Both of them are great options, but there are a bunch of different factors you should consider before choosing one over the other. I've done my research so that you don't have to, and I will lay those out in this video. I just want to leave a disclaimer before I begin the list of pros and cons for superchargers and turbochargers. Before you guys destroy me in the comment section, I just want to say that this list is pretty high level and might not always be relevant, especially to cars that are coming from manufacturers. A lot of these pros and cons are mitigated and improved by manufacturers as technologies improve. However, the list of pros and cons that I'm listing for both the supercharger and the turbocharger are generally true when it comes to an individual like myself if I wanted to boost a NA vehicle. So please take this list with a grain of salt. There are situations where one might not be true, another might be accurate. So in general, these are the facts for both superchargers and turbochargers, but of course there are going to be exceptions. So please keep that in mind. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to go through the pros and cons for a supercharger first. I'm going to break up the pros for a supercharger in three different categories. First pro for a supercharger is its linear power delivery and instant boost. Superchargers provide instant boost at lower RPMs, resulting in better throttle response and acceleration. Superchargers also provide a more linear and predictable power delivery as opposed to turbochargers. Of course, you can tune turbos to be more linear. However, generally superchargers power delivery is much more linear and predictable. So if you're looking to build a track car or a canyon driver through back roads, supercharger is often a better option as it makes driving the car much more predictable and easier through the turn. Second pro for superchargers is its ease of install and its cost. Superchargers are generally easier to install than turbochargers due to the fact that you don't need to do extensive modification to the exhaust system and additional piping. Superchargers are belt driven, so they connect directly to your engine and are generally easier to install. You can get superchargers for the VQ platform, specifically like the G37 370Z from Soho Motorsports or Stillen for around $5,000 to $6,000 for the full kit. And you also have to buy some additional fueling stuff that will run you a couple of extra $1,000, like upgraded injectors, spark plugs, and a few other miscellaneous parts. However, as compared to turbochargers, it's much less parts needed. And if you do the supercharger yourself, it would probably cost you a total of $10,000. But if you were to get the installation done from a shop, I imagine it would be roughly around $10,000 to $15,000 total to supercharge your VQ. So the last pro for superchargers is reliability. Superchargers are generally more reliable than turbos due to the fact that superchargers require much less modification to the exhaust system and many less parts as opposed to turbos. Superchargers also produce less heat than turbos do within the engine, so you don't require as many cooling mods, and there are many less components to keep an eye out when diagnosing any issues. So let's talk about the con for superchargers, which is limited peak horsepower. Superchargers may not provide as much peak horsepower as turbochargers for certain applications, specifically for lower displacement engines. You can make much more horsepower using a supercharger on a V8 or a higher displacement engine as you can in a V6 or a four-cylinder. For example, VQs tend to make much more horsepower using a big turbo than they do supercharged. You can reliably make 600 horsepower in a supercharger, same thing with the turbocharger, but once you turbo your car, you have much more room to play with once you build your engine for both the supercharger and turbocharger. So generally, you'll see the VQ platform and many other platforms making much more higher horsepower in the thousands turboing the vehicle than they do when you supercharge it. All right, let's talk about the pros for turbochargers now. So the first pro for a turbocharger is its high peak horsepower potential. So turbochargers generally will make more power at higher RPMs than supercharger. There's much more room to make more high horsepower in a turbocharger than you do in a supercharger. This is due to the fact that you can change the size of a supercharger. You can get a big Garrett turbo, or you can get a smaller twin turbos. There's a lot more flexibility with the way you can go with a turbocharger than you can go with supercharger, because a supercharger is just belt driven. You can maybe get a smaller pulley, but there is much more room to make higher horsepower in a turbocharged car, especially for the VQ platform. A lot of the big horsepower 370Zs, G37s have turbos on them. So if you want to make big horsepower, turbochargers is the way to go. The second pro for turbos is the tunability. Going hand in hand with the last clip with making high horsepower, turbochargers give you a lot more flexibility in the way you want the power to deliver. So if you want horsepower to be on the higher RPMs, you can tune it that way. If you want mid-range power, if you want low-end torque and power, you can tune the vehicle the way you like. You can also set different maps. So if you want to make 400 horsepower for daily driving, then you want a kill switch to go full 700 horsepower, and if you want a map 2 to go maybe 500, if you want to just beat some Mustangs and stuff. But if you want to beat some BMWs, you want to kill switch, go 700 to mark some Beamers, you can. The fact is, tuning in turbos is much more potential. You have way more flexibility in the way you want your car to deliver power, as opposed to a supercharger. The third pro for turbochargers is efficiency. Turbochargers are generally very efficient. They restore the gases to spin the turbine with energy that otherwise would have been wasted. Turbochargers also give you better gas mileage, although I believe that would be probably more relevant to factory turbo cars as opposed to you turboing your NA motor. I imagine that'd give you pretty poor gas mileage, but who knows. All right, let's talk about the cons for turbochargers. The first con for turbochargers is turbo lag. You have probably seen those videos of Supras with the big turbos, and they have insane power, insane turbo lag before the boost finally hits and the car is gone. So this is generally an issue when a person is putting a single turbo, a big turbo on their vehicle. The turbines take a little bit of time to spool and give you maximum boost. So turbochargers generally have more turbo lag and a delay in power, as opposed to a supercharged, which is much more instant. So the second con for turbochargers is the reliability. As mentioned as part of the supercharger list of pros and cons, turbochargers tend to be less reliable than superchargers due to the fact that you need to modify the exhaust system much more and add way more cooling mods and additional piping and a bunch of other additional modifications, which causes a lot of issues to occur, a lot more things to diagnose when something does happen. Additionally, turbochargers cause a lot of heat within the engine, causing a lot of the parts to go bad sooner than a supercharger would. Third con for turbochargers is the cost. Turboing your NA motor will generally cost more money than supercharging it. Again, due to the fact that turboing your car requires a lot more parts. It includes intercoolers, a lot more piping, a lot of different additional modifications as part of the turbo kit than a supercharger kit. You can get a turbo kit for the VQ platform for the G37 370Zs for roughly around $8,000 to $10,000 on Z1 Motorsports from a bunch of different brands. AAM makes one, I think Solo Motorsports also makes a turbo kit. They're a few $1,000s more than a supercharger, and then if you are doing the installation yourself, it'll take much more time and money. And if you were to take it to a shop, it'd be even more money. So I would imagine to turbo your VQ platform and in general any other car, well, for the VQ it would probably cost around my guess is $15,000 to about $20,000+. So it will generally cost more money to turbocharge your VQ than it would supercharging it. So that is it for the list of pros and cons for superchargers and turbochargers. I know I talked a lot, but I hope this video was helpful for you guys in seeing the different factors for deciding which option to go with. It's ultimately up to you to decide what the purpose of the build is. Do you want to make high horsepower? Then go with the turbocharger. Or do you want to really make reliable horsepower around 500-600? Go with the supercharger. It's probably a better bet, especially based on cost. I am still a bit torn on which one to choose, but I am leaning more towards a supercharger, as the biggest two factors being it is more cost efficient. I don't want to break the bank. Even $10,000 is a lot, but it's cheaper than going the turbo route. And also reliability for me is extremely important. I suck at working on cars, so I need to be able to make reliably around 500 to 550 wheel without really having to worry about stuff going wrong. So either option is great. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide. But whichever option you go with, just know that you'll be able to beat BMWs in a race. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. A lot more videos coming in the next year. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.